Andrew McCart, IFLTV, delighted, as always, to be joined by Mr. Spencer Fearon. Spencer, how are you, sir?
I'm blessed, highly favored, even better for speaking to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, man. And I'm highly blessed speaking to you as well because I love our boxing chats and when we talk boxing. And yeah, the news from the early hours of this morning was
hmm
it's back. It's back on. We're getting it. April time. The Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn fight. I just want to get your initial thoughts to that fight going ahead on April.
Well, it's been 2 years since we first thought we was going to get the fight, right?
Mhm.
So my initial thought was I'm grateful to Turki Alalshikh. But let me also say this. I want to say a massive, massive big up to Mr. Spencer Brown. There was a young man that was horrifically murdered last week. You must have seen it, yeah, in Woolwich on the bus, and Spencer Brown has offered assistance from Gold Star to help with their funeral, and that's really touched my heart. So a massive, massive big up to Spencer Brown for that. He just phoned me up and he said, "No, everyone's taking, and like I want to give something back." So I want to say a massive, massive big up to Spencer Brown for that. And he's going to be helping the Legacy Foundation on some programs to do with mental health
Mhm.
within the communities. And you know what I mean? And I think that is very, very touching. And I hope that other people within the boxing industry who are earning money from this whole Riyadh season and through Turkey Al-Sheikh, I hope that other people do exactly the same thing as that and give back to the community. So thank you very much, Mr. Brown.
Spencer Brown is the man right now, man. Listen, nobody would have known. Spencer doesn't do all these kind things for admiration and social media. He does it because he's an absolute great guy. Because we wouldn't have known about this unless you mentioned it, Spencer. Because he wouldn't be singing from the rooftops about it. So fair
No,
play.
no, it wouldn't be. But the thing about it is this: we spoke this morning. We was on the phone this morning. We had a good chat, and then he was saying like, "I see that you're doing a lot. That you see like over the last couple of weeks, I do a lot for the elderly, where we do elderly home feeds and stuff like that, especially at this time when it's really cold. You know what I mean? And you'd be surprised, yeah,
Mhm.
how old people would um, are so happy and so grateful for the company that you can have with them. So, I mean, I've done that with the One Housing Group. So, massive big up to them. I was in Tottenham the other day. And a massive big up to my guy, Johnny Mack from Mack and Sons, because they donated the food for me. And Almadina 313. So, I could go on and on, but I have to mention that simply because when you give in charity or when you do things that are charitable, it will never ever, we believe, that will never ever decrease your wealth.
No,
So
definitely not. No.
massive up Spencer Brown, and I hope all the rest of these promoters and everybody else follow suit. You know what I mean? But yeah, it was my cousin Abdul Haq phoned me up and said like he knew the family and that we was talking, and I must have put a post out about I'm sick and tired of this stuff and this knife and gun violence that's going on, especially within the capital, right? And yeah, and so fair play to Spencer Brown. He reached out and said, right, he's going to assist. So yeah, big up Gold Star Promotions, and long may you have continued success. And I like to see other promoters do exactly the same thing.
You know what? Big up Gold Star, big up Spencer Brown. I love Bit Spencer, man. He's a great guy. And big up yourself, Spencer, because you do charitable work, and I'm sure there's not many people that big up you for doing your charitable work. So big up you, and big up Spencer Brown and everybody you just mentioned there. However, I do want to get down to business if that's okay with you. All the charitable work,
So
I absolutely commend you for that. But
through the every bit now. Do you know what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Should
Up,
we
let's go.
get down to the nitty gritty bit, Spencer? Let's get down to the nitty gritty. The Ben versus Eubank versus Ben fight is back on. Like I said there, um, yeah. Your initial thoughts on that?
What weight is the fight being made at?
160 with a £10 rehydration clause, so both fighters can't go above 170 on fight night. That's what I'm hearing. I don't. Again, it was just
Okay.
what I've heard. Don't quote me
All
on
right.
that. It might have changed, but that's what I'm hearing so far.
Well, listen to what I'm saying to you here. if the fight is at 160, yeah, with a £10 rehydration clause, it will favor Conor Benn. And I'm going to tell you why. And Conor Benn's going to knock out Chris Eubank Jr. That's what's going to happen in this fight. Conor Benn is going to knock out Chris Eubank Jr.
How? I mean, Eubank is the bigger man.
How? You just asked me. I just said that.
No, but I want you to break it down, sister.
Very clever, intelligent man. To knock out someone, that means you got to throw a shot, land on their chin, and knock them out. Conor Benn, I'm telling you this now. Conor Benn is knock out Chris Eubank Jr.
Is this just because of the rehydration clause? Is that the reason why, or is there more to it?
Chris Eubank Jr., yeah,
for
all his talents, and he was absolutely superb against Liam Smith. Beefy Smith, sorry.
Beefy Smith, Liam Smith, you're right.
Right? He was superb in the rematch, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was against the man who was at the tail end of his career, who just scored the highlight win of his career. Do you mean? Mm-hmm. And yes, I wondered to yourself, is he really on it? I'm telling you this now, yeah? Conor Benn is going to be totally on it. And also, we're talking about charitable stuff and all the rest of it. Massive big up to Conor Benn for coming out for the Al Medina 313 charity event. We raised a lot of money that day. And he came out and supported, and that was for orphans and widows around the world. So massive big up. And that was with Arthur Beterbiev and Roy Jones. That's not the reason why I'm saying that he's going to knock out. Because he's a spiteful little bastard. That's why. Right? And if it was anybody else, he's fighting anybody else at middleweight, no, I wouldn't pick Conor Benn. But the spite that he has towards Chris Eubank Sr. and the spite that he has towards Chris Eubank Jr. and the fact that Chris Eubank Sr. isn't on the scene in this fight is only more monumental simply because of their fathers and with their fathers' accolades. When Chris Eubank Sr. and Conor Benn's father, Nigel Benn, fought each other, right? I was a young man, I was 15 years old when they fought each other. Some 35 years ago, right? And when their men fought, the whole nation, it was a standstill. And it was a Sunday night. It was November on a Sunday night, and it was chilly, and they both entered the ring at 9 o'clock, right? I remember this, but I remember the tunnel vision that Chris Eubank Sr. had because Ambrose Mendy, who was Nigel Benn's manager, switched off the music. So Chris Eubank had no entry music, right? To G himself up. Because you know when you hear your music, it doesn't G himself up. And he didn't have that, right? And he didn't have that G. But what he did have was a different resilience and a threshold to pain, right? It was like Chris Eubank Sr. was oblivious to pain. I remember Nigel Benn ripped his tongue open, right? And he was swallowing blood. And as you know, if you swallow blood, it goes to your stomach and it curdles. So this was the artful butchery and the hatred that Nigel Benn had for Chris Eubank Sr. It's in his blood. Now, at the time when that fight happened, Conor Benn wasn't even born, right? But if you know anything about science, you're a clever man, right? Whatever you think about, you bring about. That hatred was in his spine of Nigel Benn, yeah? On the time of when Conor was produced. So Conor was born not realizing why he hates Chris Eubank Jr. and Sr. so much, but the reason why he hates him so much is because his dad. Do you remember? It was midweek sports special. It was a weekday. I think it was a Wednesday night. You had Ambrose Mendy, Chris Eubank Sr., and Nigel Benn and Barry Hunt, right? And Nigel Benn sat there and he said, "Look, I really do hate him. I really, really do hate him." That was coming from the pit. That was coming from his sternum. Do you hear what I'm saying to you, Mr. McCart? From his sternum. That is embodied in his DNA. When Chris Eubank, when Chris Eubank was asked, listen, no. I didn't hate the man. I just wanted his WBO title. That's it. different thing. Chris Eubank was about the business, right? Nigel Benn really and truly hates him, right? And as much as Nigel's, I'll give my life to the shout, don't buy that rubbish. The hatred is real. And that's why I'm tipping Conor Benn to knock out Chris Eubank Jr. Because if he was fighting anybody else up at 160, no. But he's fighting this man. I'm telling you, Conor walks around big, right? So all he's got to be fit. They're doing him a favor for his fight to be at 160. And when they say, oh, but the size difference and everything else in real, I'm telling you, Conor Benn is possessed. He's a man possessed. And I'm telling you, I see it in his eyes. I know when it's fake. I know when someone's doing the bravado, right? And I know, like, over the last couple of years, Conor's been getting a lot of flack and everything else. But I'm telling you this now, Eubank didn't overly impress me in his last performance. He didn't overly impress me, right? But I know loyalty reigns supreme. And one thing I would have preferred if I knew that Chris Eubank Sr. was involved with his son in some form of capacity, maybe that could bring the energy. But I'm telling you, Conor Benn's going to knock him out.
In the first fight, when it was first made 2 years ago, it was probably they were fighting off their fathers' names. You mentioned the hatred and the spite. Do you feel like now this fight's coming around 2 years later that now it's not about their fathers, it's more about them two and the hatred that those two have with each other? Because we've seen it on social media, we've seen it with the face-offs that they've had in Saudi and whatnot. That these two, it's not just a dislike, like you said, it is a hatred these two have for each other. I'm talking about Junior and Conor.
Oh, I disagree. I disagree. This is parliamentary procedure. Now listen, I disagree. Chris Eubank Jr. doesn't hate Conor Benn, right? And I think he needs that little bit of hatred in him for him to win this fight. Because this is not going to be a boxing match. This is not going to be, this is going to be a fight where you're going to be tested, right? And as far as I'm concerned, can you imagine how long has Chris Eubank Jr. been a pro now? He's been a pro for well over a decade, right? It's been a stop and start career, and every time he had stepped up, he's been beaten. This is not me knocking him. Every time he has stepped up, he's been beaten, right? Listen to me here. Conor Benn is technically better than his father, right? And Nigel, you know it as well. Your son, technically better than Nigel Benn. But Nigel Benn had something in him that was just different. For the fact that he could go to America in 1990, April of 1990, and get floored, get up, and destroy Doug DeWitt, who was a very good fighter, right? Tommy Hearns couldn't knock out Doug DeWitt. You know what I mean? Could go back a few months later, I think that was a few months later, I think it was September, and then destroy Iron Barkley, a man who previously knocked out Tommy Hearns and lost on points to then one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world, Michael Nunn. Nigel Benn destroyed him in a round. So I'm telling you, they've got something inside of them. And I keep on telling to people that boxing is spiritual. And once you take out the spiritual aspect of it, and then it becomes about money, right? How much am I going to get paid? Am I going to do this? And it comes about that. You have taken away the pilgrim that you're meant to pay to the universal law of boxing. So no, I see Conor Benn sparking Chris Eubank Jr. And I'm not sitting here saying like I want that to happen, right? I'm just telling you that's what's going to happen.
Tell you what, I've not heard anyone say it as passionate as you as to why they believe either or is going to knock the other one out. But where do you sit? I want to take a little left turn here. Where do you sit in the whole? There's going to be people like Simon Jordan and all these guys are going to say, listen, Conor Benn still needs to show us the proof as to why he's innocent and this sort of stuff. And we know that Eddie Hearn said that there's a, what did he say? There's a he can't speak about it because there's the lawyers and whatnot, but he is innocent. But where do you sit on all the he needs to prove that he's innocent sort of thing?
Bro, I've spoken for hours to Conor, right? Hours, I mean hours, till he's been in tears over certain things, right? Which I'm not going to get into, right? Whether he cheated or he didn't cheat, it's doesn't matter. What I believe, I believe that Conor's a wholesome person. I don't believe if there was anything found in him, I don't believe that he deliberately did this. I don't, right?
Yep.
It's because they said something was found. But I am saying that I don't believe that he would willingly cheat, right? So we're gonna get over that because we can see the comments now. And that doesn't matter. I'm talking about this fight, right? And if he did or he didn't, don't make no difference. The fight's happening in April of this year. 35 years from the two fathers winning the ring, right? Now I'm telling you, whether you want to listen or not, right? Whether you want to listen or not, Chris Eubank Jr. wasn't born with that hatred inside of him because at the time when the fight happened, his father boxed Nigel Benn, yeah, he was already born. So he grew up around it and seeing it, but not really understanding it. But when something is coming out of you from your DNA, you know this, you're a clever man. We've got 30 trillion cells in the human body. Every cell communicates with each other and they simultaneously understand what's going on. At the time that Conor Benn was birthed, the hatred was in it for Eubank. Right? I don't care about no other fight, anything else, no. But this fight here, I'm telling you, Conor Benn's gonna knock him out.
Do you think that either man will become a world champion, or is that ship sailed? Is it just all about? You mentioned the money and the primal aspect of it, the boxing world. Do you think any of the man can?
Titles are fragmenting right now. We've got to say a massive big up to Turki Alalshikh for kind of being like a school teacher coming there with a ruler, and when he walks into the room, everyone's fingers on lips time, yeah? Because all these promoters who didn't like each other, all these bitching and moaning about Turki just came and slammed the ruler down, and everyone shut their mouth, right? So off of that, then I'm saying, alhamdulillah, praise be to God, right? Reason being, not even praise be to God, but all praises due to God for Turki Alalshikh coming in and putting in some form of, not some form of, putting in stability inside of professional boxing so it's not ran like this craziness and, oh, I don't like him, blah, blah, no, shut your mouth, you want to get paid. That is it, right? And even more so, the man that orchestrated the whole thing and brought everybody in is Mr. Spencer Brown, my namesake, right? So, it's a brilliant time for boxing, right? We've seen everything that's going on right now. We've seen all of a sudden Saudi Arabia being the epicenter, but the mini epicenter of it all now is Great Britain. How beautiful is that, right? From the noble art coming out of here in the 18th century, coming out of here. So it's only right that it comes back to its original place, right? So it's gone full circle. So as it's gone full circle now, we're saying like, oh, everyone's got to be in line right now. But it's not that, because this is the best thing for boxing. And all the liars will be exposed.